Erie, Pennsylvania, August 28, 2003. The kind of late summer afternoon that feels utterly forgettable. The air is heavy, humid, buzzing with cicadas. Erie is a quiet city on the edge of Lake Erie, a place where excitement usually means a high school football game or a street festival. But today, something unthinkable is about to unfold. A crime so strange and twisted it will leave investigators stunned for years. And at the center of it is a man named Brian Wells. Brian isn't the kind of man anyone expects to be part of a headline. At 46 years old, he lives a modest, almost invisible life. A pizza delivery driver for Mamma Mia's Pizzeria, Wells is quiet, unassuming, a man known by friends and co-workers as reliable, if not especially remarkable. He rents a small apartment, spends free time watching TV or tinkering with crossword puzzles, and has never made much of a ripple in his community. But just after 1:30 p.m. on this particular Thursday, Wells receives a call at the pizza shop. A delivery order. Nothing unusual, except for the location. The caller requests 2 small pizzas, delivered to a strange address, 1361 Peach Street. It isn't a home. It isn't a business. It's a television transmission tower at the end of a dirt road on the edge of town. For Brian, it's just another delivery. He loads the pizzas into his car, a rusty 1993 Geo Metro, painted a faded shade of blue, and heads out. The tower looms ahead as he drives down the desolate dirt path, its steel frame rising against the hazy sky. No houses nearby, no people. Just a strange, isolated place for someone to want lunch. Brian pulls up, parks his car, and gets out. He doesn't know it yet, but he has just walked into a carefully laid trap. When he fails to return on time, no one at the pizzeria thinks much of it. Deliveries sometimes run late. But in reality, Brian is being ambushed. Exactly what happens in the next few minutes is still debated to this day. What we know for certain is this: Brian Wells is overpowered by at least 2 individuals. They force him to the ground and lock a heavy metal collar around his neck and snap shut a 4-digit combination lock. Attached to the collar is a crude homemade device. It's bulky, strapped with wires, encased in a box with a digital timer. To Brian, it looks real. To police later, it will prove to be terrifyingly real. In his hands, they place a cane. But this is no ordinary cane. Hidden inside the wooden shaft is a working shotgun, a weapon disguised as something harmless. And then comes the final piece, a stack of papers, handwritten instructions covering multiple pages. The orders are strict, commanding, filled with a mix of menace and puzzle-like tasks. He is told that the collar bomb is live, that if he fails to follow the instructions exactly, the device will detonate, that if he goes to the police, the device will detonate, that if he doesn't finish the scavenger hunt, the device will detonate. The instructions send him on a desperate mission across the city, a bizarre treasure hunt with clues and stops laid out like some nightmarish game. Each stop, the papers claim, will provide a key or code to gradually disable the collar. And the very first step in this twisted journey? Rob a bank. Just after 2:30 p.m., Brian Wells drives to the PNC Bank on Peach Street. From the outside, nothing looks out of place. A man pulls into the lot, gets out of his car, and walks in holding a cane. A little unusual, perhaps, but not alarming. Inside, the atmosphere shifts instantly. Customers and employees notice the strange device hanging from his neck. Brian's face is pale, his movements mechanical, as if he's in shock. He approaches a teller's window and slides across a note. The note demands $250,000 in cash. The teller stares at him. Brian quietly explains, "This isn't my plan. I'm being forced. The bomb around my neck will go off if I don't do this." There is no Hollywood panic, no shouting or shooting. Instead, there's an eerie calm, as though everyone in the room is frozen in disbelief. The tellers fill a bag with what they can, but it's nowhere near the amount demanded, about $8,700 in total. Brian takes the money, turns, and walks back out into the daylight. To anyone watching, he doesn't look like a typical bank robber. He looks like a man sleepwalking through a nightmare. On the streets of Erie, life goes on as normal. People mow lawns, cars roll by, children ride bicycles. No one yet realizes that just blocks away, a man is driving with a live bomb chained to his throat, following instructions he can barely understand. And soon, the world will see what happens when the countdown reaches 0.
Brian Wells leaves the PNC Bank at 2:38 p.m., clucking a canvas bag filled with just under $9,000. It's a fraction of the demanded $250,000, but it doesn't matter. He has no time to argue. In his car, the instructions sit in the passenger seat, pages upon pages of orders scrawled in black marker, a scavenger hunt that reads like something from a sadistic puzzle maker. He is told where to drive next. He is told what to pick up. He is told that if he deviates even slightly, the bomb will detonate. The clock is ticking. But Brian doesn't get far. Within minutes, police are on him. A radio call has gone out. Suspicious robbery at PNC Bank. Suspect armed, device around his neck. At 2:50 p.m., less than 15 minutes after the heist, state troopers swarm onto Peach Street and cut Brian off. His old Geo Metro sputters to a stop in the parking lot of Eyeglass World, just a few blocks from the bank. He steps out of the car, clutching the cane. Officers shout, guns drawn, ordering him to the ground. He obeys. He sits cross-legged on the asphalt, hands raised in surrender. And now the spectacle begins. Shoppers and bystanders gather at a distance, confused, watching the scene unfold. Television news crews, already nearby for a separate story, rush to the site and set up their cameras. The image beamed across Erie that afternoon is unforgettable. A middle-aged man in a white t-shirt, handcuffed on the pavement, with a bulky metal collar locked around his neck. His face is twisted with panic, his voice desperate. "It's going to go off," he pleads. "It's going to go off." Police keep their distance. They don't dare approach, not with a live bomb strapped to his body. They radio frantically for the bomb squad, urging them to hurry. The instructions, now scattered in the front seat of Wells's car, are chilling. They reveal a twisted game of control. Drive to one location, find a note, follow the clue to the next stop, collect keys, complete every task before the timer runs out. The final page insists that only if every step is completed, every single one, will Brian receive the combination to unlock the collar. To the officers on the ground, it's an impossible scenario.
They can't allow him to continue a scavenger hunt across the city with an active bomb strapped to his neck. And so they wait, cordoning off the area, buying time for the specialists. But time is the one thing Brian Wells doesn't have. At 3:18 p.m., 28 minutes after the robbery, the device strapped to Wells begins to emit a high-pitched beeping sound. The crowd freezes. Brian's eyes widen in terror. He squirms against the cuffs. "It's going off," he shouts. And then an ear-splitting boom. The explosion tears through his chest, launching his body backward on the pavement. Smoke billows upward. People scream. Officers duck behind cars. When the dust settles, Brian Wells lies motionless on the ground. The collar bomb has detonated. The scavenger hunt is over. The live cameras keep rolling. The footage will haunt everyone who sees it. A man caught in the middle of one of the most bizarre crimes in American history, killed in front of police, in front of bystanders, and in front of an entire city watching on TV. For investigators, the nightmare has only just begun, because nothing about this crime makes sense. Not the scavenger hunt, not the bizarre weapon disguised as a cane, and not the question that will plague this case for years to come. Was Brian Wells a victim or a willing participant?
In the hours after the explosion, chaos engulfs Erie. Police swarm the scene, cordoning off the area where Brian Wells' body still lies, his shirt shredded, the steel collar still locked in place around what remains of his neck. Bomb technicians inch forward cautiously, fearing there may be a second trigger. The scavenger hunt notes are gathered and spread out on squad car hoods. Investigators read them in disbelief. It's like something out of a twisted puzzle book, riddles, driving directions, and cryptic warnings. One instruction reads, "Act now, think later, or you will die." Another, "This is not a hoax." And the chilling thing is, it wasn't. At first, the FBI can't make sense of the case. Why such a bizarre plot? Why a scavenger hunt? Why involve a pizza delivery driver? The nation is glued to their televisions. To some, Wells looks like a victim caught in a sick game. To others, he looks like a willing accomplice who thought he could outsmart the plan and lost. But behind the confusion lies a truth stranger than anyone can imagine. Weeks after the robbery, police receive a disturbing tip. A man named Bill Rothstein has called 911. His message is cryptic. "At my house, there's a body in the freezer." When investigators arrive, Rothstein calmly leads them inside his home, a cluttered property on Peach Street, less than 2 miles from where Wells died. In the garage freezer, wrapped in tarps, is the body of James Roden, a local man shot and killed days earlier. And this is where the threads begin to connect. Bill Rothstein is not your average suspect. Brilliant, eccentric, reclusive, he was once described as a gentle giant in his community, a handyman who could fix almost anything. But beneath that quiet surface lies a darker eccentricity. Years earlier, Rothstein nearly killed himself, leaving a bizarre suicide note detailing how he'd helped a woman hide her boyfriend's corpse. That woman was Marjorie Dial Armstrong. Marjorie is a figure out of a psychological thriller, a highly intelligent woman, once a straight-A student, who slowly descended into paranoia and violence. Diagnosed with bipolar disorder and other mental health conditions, She had a long history of erratic behavior, lawsuits, and disturbing outbursts. By the time she's linked to Rothstein again in 2003, she's already connected to the deaths of multiple men in her life. Investigators will eventually piece together the chain. Marjorie wanted Roden dead. Rothstein helped her hide the body. But Roden's murder was only one layer of the onion. The larger plan was something far more bizarre. Through months of interrogations and wiretaps, the FBI uncovers an alleged scheme hatched by Marjorie, Rothstein, and others. The target? A local bank. The motive? Money to fund another murder-for-hire plot. And the means? A collar bomb. Rothstein's engineering skills, Marjorie's unstable ambition, and the involvement of yet another conspirator, a drug dealer named Kenneth Barnes, swirl together into a plot that makes less sense the more you look at it. The scavenger hunt wasn't just some cruel prank. Investigators believe it was designed to buy time for the conspirators to escape. If Wells successfully followed the trail, he'd spend hours driving across town while the mastermind slipped into hiding. But here's the twist. The scavenger hunt wasn't solvable. The final instructions led to a dead end. Wells was never meant to survive. Still, one central question haunts the case. Was Brian Wells an innocent hostage, or was he in on it? Authorities uncover evidence suggesting he may have known something about the robbery ahead of time. Witnesses say Wells occasionally bragged about making easy money. Others claim he thought the bomb was fake. But then again, what kind of man would agree to strap a device like that around his neck unless he believed he could walk away alive? For the FBI, the case morphs from a robbery investigation into a bizarre character study, a web of unstable personalities, half-truths, and conflicting stories. And as they push deeper into the lives of Rothstein, Marjorie, and Barnes, the line between victim and conspirator blurs until it's almost impossible to see. Even after Marjorie Dial Armstrong's conviction and the unraveling of the conspiracy, Erie is left with questions that refuse to be answered. The city's quiet streets still echo with the memory of a man who walked into a bank with a bomb around his neck and never walked out. Brian Wells' story is one of terror, confusion, and tragedy. A moment frozen in time that seems almost too surreal to be real. The trial explained some of the logistics, the players, and the motives. We learned of Marjorie's brilliance turned dangerous, of Rothstein's engineering skill and morbid fascination, and of Kenneth Barnes' reluctant involvement. But even with decades of investigation, a cloud of uncertainty hangs over the case. Brian Wells' exact role remains debated. Was he an innocent pawn, coerced and terrified, forced into a nightmare he could not escape? Or was he, knowingly or unknowingly, a participant in a scheme that would end his life in the most public and horrifying way imaginable? The scavenger hunt, a sequence of cruel riddles and impossible instructions, was supposed to be a puzzle, a path to safety, but it became a death sentence. Each clue, each stop, each turn in the city that day carried the weight of suspense, fear, and an unthinkable inevitability. For a few hours in August 2003, Erie itself became a stage for a crime so bizarre it captured national attention, a spectacle that blurred the line between reality and the macabre imagination of its creators. In the years since, the Collar Bomb Heist has continued to fascinate true crime enthusiasts, psychologists, and historians alike. It is studied not only for the mechanics of the crime,
but for the psychology of its perpetrators and the tragic vulnerability of its victim. Every detail, the handwritten notes, the mechanical ingenuity of the bomb, the deadly logic of the plan, paints a picture of human obsession taken to its most extreme form. The crime is almost cinematic in its construction, but the consequences were brutally real. Brian Wells's life ended in terror, and the echoes of that day remain in Erie, a chilling reminder that truth sometimes can be stranger and far more horrifying than fiction. In the end, it is a story about a man who went about his ordinary life delivering pizzas, only to be thrust into a nightmare beyond comprehension, a story that remains etched in the minds of those who saw it unfold, a story that will continue to haunt and intrigue for generations to come. It is above all else a testament to how fragile life can be when human ambition, manipulation, and invention collide in ways no one could have anticipated.
If you enjoyed today's video, we thank you very much. Please like and subscribe to Rare Breed Chronicles. And let's dive into another story that defies the ordinary.